I told you that the Democrats were going to respond positively to any change whatsoever, okay? Any change whatsoever. People were begging for it. All right, let's continue. Majority of states have pledged delegates to Kamala Harris ahead of the DNC. She actually got the number of delegates she needed as of last night to be the official nom. Let's take a look.
The Kamala Harris campaign kicking off and a quick start in this presidential race. At least 27 states have now pledged their delegates. CBS News estimates that the vice president already now has the support that she needs to officially become the Democratic presidential nominee next month. And it happened on her first full day as a candidate, which she spent visiting campaign staff in Wilmington, Delaware. President Biden also spoke to staffers over the phone, notably not Zoom, the first time we've heard his voice even since he stepped aside. Ed O'Keefe is near Biden's home in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. Ed, good morning to you.
Tony, good to see you. We have finally heard from the president's doctor that his condition is significantly improved, and he is expected to go back to Washington later today. As you said, we heard from the president finally. He talked to his former staff, said stick with the vice president and help her win the White House. Walking into her newly minted campaign headquarters, Vice President Harris reassured staffers and reshaped the way Democrats plan to campaign against Donald Trump, highlighting her experience as a prosecutor.
I took on perpetrators of all kinds. Predators who abused women. Fraudsters who ripped off consumers. Cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type.
And in his first remarks since dropping out, President Biden called in to thank staff, pledging his continued support.
I think we made the right decision. I'm not going anywhere. And I want you to know you've always had my back, and I promise you, I will always have your back.
And supporters now have hers. More than $100 million raised since the president's surprise announcement Sunday, more than 58,000 new volunteers. And she's keeping the team together, asking top aides like campaign chair Jen O'Malley Dillon to stay on, and Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer to co-chair the campaign.
Vice President Harris has my full support.
Other top Democrats also jumped on. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi saying she has full confidence Harris will lead Democrats to victory in November.
Everybody's going to coalesce around the vice president, and she'll be fine.
But some, including Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, have yet to officially back her. Well, Senator Bernie Sanders is withholding support until he hears more about her agenda.
We need a presidential candidate who is prepared not only to stand up to the big money interest, but to fight for working people.
Now, one of the biggest questions, who might she pick as a running mate? Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro batted away questions it might be him.
That decision should be made free of any sort of political pressure.
So did Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear.
The only way I would consider something other than this current job is if I believed I could further help my people and to help this country.
And North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper.
I think it's really important that we do keep the focus on her this week.
Watching it all are Republicans who say Democrats have rushed to anoint
Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries have endorsed her now.
Harris and push aside the president.
You got to persuade voters. You got to win their votes. You don't decide who the president is in smoke-filled rooms with billionaires and senior elected officials. You let the people decide.
That's a great take. Republicans famously, one, love democracy. Two, are angling for the Biden or busters. There are no Biden or busters. That narrative would have been more successful if Joe Biden was ideologically at odds with the establishment Democrats. If it was like a Bernie style situation, and objectively, even with Bernie Sanders, that narrative was not enough to sway enough votes for Donald Trump to win, regardless of what Democrats try to claim in the aftermath of the 2016 election. Okay. And it didn't work in 2020 anyway. Bernie Sanders campaigned both for Hillary Clinton, harder than Hillary Clinton did, and campaigned for Biden, harder than Biden ever did in 2020. So that is not a successful narrative in this circumstance when you're trying to be like, yeah, the Democratic Party. Guys, you don't have a democratic process, actually. It's really up. When 83% of Democratic voters are elated at this prospect, at this new swap. And further, $88 million in individual donations came in a 24-hour cycle after Kamala stepped into the ticket. That is insane. That's more than what Trump was able to raise after he got shot, dude. You're out of your dang mind. Like, who the f- are you talking to? What do you think about people saying the left is perpetually looking for misery because we are insisting on Harris demonstrating a more left-wing position on Gaza? There's two different arguments there. The moral argument, obviously, is that genocide is abhorrent. History will not look kindly upon those who are advocates for genocide, and turning a blind eye to ethnic cleansing is unimaginably cruel. Okay, that's the moral argument, number one. But the strategic argument for the election also remains. You have to communicate to liberals that states that are must win for the Democratic Party, like Michigan, states that are must win for the Democratic Party, like Wisconsin, Minnesota. These are states that actually have had significant movement in their uncommitted voter campaigns. It was directly a consequence of Biden's inaction and Biden's direct defense of Israel's ongoing ethnic cleansing campaign. That right there means that there are a lot of people who will not vote if the Gaza messaging even doesn't change. Okay? So the Gaza position, when I talk about that, I'm not even talking about it from a moral perspective. You already know that. You already know what my position is on Gaza. You already know how abhorrent I think it is that the Democratic Party's lack of interest in doing the right thing is genuinely putting them at genocide status. Okay? You know that already. When I talk about Gaza, I'm tying it back to the election for liberals to understand that there are a lot of people who are still going to refuse to vote. Maybe they were refusing to vote for an old man who was doing genocide, and maybe if it's a young woman who's doing genocide, they might be more willing, but there's still going to be significant margins that you cannot lose out on if you want to win these states, okay? Especially young voters. I think you're overestimating the impact of uncommitted voters in the primaries. It is one thing to do it in a primary, another to do that in the general election. If anything, I think you're underestimating that because the real uncommitted voters just simply don't vote. You're wrong. And I said this even back then. Uncommitted voters that are voting in the primaries are uncommitted Democratic Party loyalists, like hardliners in the Democratic Party. You're talking about people who are so invested in the party's future and invested in politics, so much so that they're voting in the primaries. Okay? You're nuts. Also, Wall Street Journal is reporting that Harris plans to gut Biden's foreign policy and national security teams if she wins. Will be interesting. Replacing Sullivan, Blinken, and Austin is a very big shakeup. Oh, she could possibly take their line, and just because she's Biden's VP doesn't mean they agree on everything. It's possible for her to distance herself from him. I told you guys this earlier today. Okay, I told you guys this earlier today that the issue here is twofold, and it's a very complex dynamic. It's a very complicated equation. Why is it complicated? Because Kamala Harris has to demonstrate political courage. Which I don't know if she has or not, and an ideological commitment to stopping genocide, which I'm not sure she has. Her track record certainly does not show that reality. She's been a solid AIPAC supporter, even though there have been some moments in her career where she has sidestepped away from the Democratic caucus's unimaginable dick riding of Israel. Minor moments, albeit still significant. Having said that, however, in terms of like Kamala Harris demonstrating political courage and willingness to change the administration's current discourse on Gaza, also runs into a separate trap, and that is Joe Biden himself. There's one thing we know about that demented old bag. He is an unimaginable, unconditional, generational talent in terms of bouncing on Israel's dick, okay? He is doing Olympic level gyration like you've never seen, okay? So he might totally be like, yeah, I don't care what Kamala Harris is saying. I'm going to nuke Gaza. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's more of an ideological fanatic for Israel than previous presidents of Israel, okay? And it's pretty funny because regardless of him bouncing on Netanyahu's dick, Israel still likes Donald Trump more. Israel likes Donald Trump more than they like Biden, and certainly more than they like Benjamin Netanyahu. Anyway, so in terms of like interesting prospects or a change in messaging, which is like too much hopium, and I don't want to talk about that too much. Like, I don't want to give you guys like false hope. Okay. I don't want to give you guys false hope, but there are some shifts happening that I like. Okay. Where is it? Here's Emma Vigeland. Wall Street Journal. Harris will meet 1v1 with Bibi, then skip his address. She's expected to tell him to stop the war and the suffering of Palestinian civilians. She likely won't keep Sullivan, Blinken, or Austin. Jim Zogby says she's shown far greater empathy for Palestinians than Biden. Harris' Middle East views will be in the spotlight this week when she and Biden will meet with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The plan is for Harris, dude, if she activates her cop gene, oh my God. Obviously that would never happen, but it'd be awesome. Imagine she just goes ultra instinct. She just goes maximum ultra instinct and arrests Benjamin Netanyahu. She's like, sorry, I'm a cop. Lord, forgive me. I'm back on my old ways. And it seems like you've done crimes, sir. She does not like him having a warrant and not being in jail. That's what I'm saying, dude. Holy Trump is meeting with Netanyahu at Mar-a-Lago. Looking forward to welcoming Bibi Netanyahu at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida tomorrow. During my first term, we had peace and stability in the region, even signing the historic Abraham Accords, and we will have it again. Just as I've said in discussions with President Zelensky and other world leaders in recent weeks, peace through strength agenda will demonstrate the world that these horrible, deadly wars and violent conflicts must end. Millions are dying, and Kamala Harris is in no way capable of stopping it. Guys, you need to understand something, and this is very important. What politicians say, especially when they're running for office, and what they do almost never match up. But what politicians say is very important, especially in terms of politicians who know how to read the room. Donald Trump has consistently presented himself as the peaceful dove even in this election cycle. I don't know how he's able to pull it off, but this is him consistently taking advantage of all the chaos that has unfolded under the Biden administration. And if the liberals' argument here is we built NATO and Israel has a right to defend itself over and over again, this is going to lead to people going, yeah, you know what? I do want to believe that Donald Trump could possibly stop Israel's genocide. And even though he is like an unimaginable, also simultaneously Olympic level dick rider of Olympic level dick rider of Israel. I think T Swift would be a terrible VP. What are you saying? I hate this. I hate this because like right now, all conflicts that are occurring are on Joe Biden. And if there is Harris is likely focusing on securing the nomination this week and will want to steer clear of any confrontation with Netanyahu, analysts said, not least so as to avoid opening herself up to any criticism that she's weak on Israel. Harris's relationship with Netanyahu will be very different than of Biden, who has sparred with the Israeli prime minister, but also has decades of experience with dealing with him. Her husband, Doug Emhoff, is the first Jewish spouse of a U.S. president or vice president and has been outspoken on the issue of anti-Semitism, particularly since October 7. A Harris presidency could lead to a shakeup of the Democratic National Security Team. Philip Gordon, her NATSEC advisor, likely to play a central role. Gordon served as a top State Department official for Europe in the Obama admin and later worked as a senior White House official on Middle Eastern issues, where he was deeply skeptical of the plans to arm Syrian opponents of the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Key Biden appointees, including National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, Secretary of State Blinken, and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, wouldn't likely be extended in their current roles. Current and former officials say. Over several decades, the Democratic foreign policy establishment has been divided between those seeking a more assertive role for the U.S. abroad and others more skeptical of military force. The Clinton admin dubbed the U.S. an indispensable nation and undertook selective military interventions to quell ethnic strife in the Balkans, while the Obama admin was more cautious about the use of force and balked at providing lethal military assistance to Ukraine. I mean, they still did it. That's crazy that like Obama is the dove here for NATSEC advisors. I mean, NATSEC advisors maintain the most Hitlerian politics consistently. You know what I mean? Obama did not provide military aid to Ukraine, only non-military aid. What? Obama did provide military aid to Ukraine. Am I misremembering? I think he did. I would love to come on and absolutely trash Shapiro. Yeah, I'm going to talk about Shapiro later. I've ripped into him last night. I will never forgive, and I will never forget how much the media tried to act like damn near every Democrat, almost every Democrat that's like under the age of 78 was not begging to replace the ticket with anybody. Okay? Kamala Harris is far from the most charismatic, telegenic, and uniquely revolutionary Democratic Party candidate. And yet, the fact that Kamala Harris has brought out this much momentum for the Democratic Party is proof enough that like virtually everyone wanted this. And of course, it happened in an undemocratic fashion. Ironically enough, it was the Democratic Party for the first time in my lifetime actually operating like a party. And I've told you this. I told you that the Democrats were going to respond positively to any change whatsoever. Okay? Any change whatsoever. People were begging for it. And it only happened, and I can't believe I'm saying this, because of Big Dog Pelosi. She busted that shit out, dude. Big Dog Pelosi and the actual establishment Democrats were like, we can't do this. They saw the polls. They were like, no, this is ridiculous. What the fuck are we doing? And they actually did something very surprising, okay? They actually acted like a party, not to rat Bernie, as chatters are pointing to, which is, correct. That is when they acted like a party, like Labor in the UK, kind of. But this time, they acted like a party to actually abide by the wishes, like the stars aligned in a very unique way, where the voters' wishes and the donors' wishes and the Democratic establishment's wishes aligned. It was a very weird moment. I've never, in my lifetime at least, ever had this much agreement with Nancy Pelosi and like the Democratic Party's like big ticket donors. Think about that, okay? And of course, the momentum from this change completely eviscerated the Republican RNC message, like I told you it would happen. It is, oh my God. It was like, it literally just all the cards fell in the exact same way that I told you it would happen, okay? Nancy Pelosi came in and just basically said, that shit, okay? We're not doing that. And I told you it would be perfect to do it right after the RNC deflate every call for unity that was already fake to begin with, because Republicans cannot hold themselves back from being unimaginable monsters, okay? They love being monsters. They love being pieces of shit. And they immediately went back to bully ball. That's the only road they know. They went back to bully ball like that. They were like, unity? Unity. Joe Biden is dead. Kamala Harris is pussy. We have to investigate it. How much damage has her pussy taken from taking abortions? Like, Mountain Dew makes you racist. I drink Mountain Dew, guys. Diet Mountain Dew. It's making me racist. Democrats call me racist because I drink Diet Mountain Dew. It's like, dude, what are you guys doing? They're crying to the referee. They're crying to the referee every goddamn day. They're like, oh, you can't do this to us. You can't actually play ball. That's not allowed. You're supposed to be pathetic losers, destined for L after L after L. What are we doing here? That was the reaction from the Republican Party. And it is wild to me. It is wild to me because what did you expect? You wanted this to happen. You didn't have a contingency plan. That's what I say to the Republicans. You don't have a contingency plan? You demanded Joe Biden was demented. You demanded he drop out for literally 4 years. Fox News was the only news broadcast out there that said, Joe Biden is demented. Joe Biden must drop out. Now, obviously, they were saying it for political reasons, but they were not wrong. They wanted it. And now that they got it, it turns out they got caught with their pants down. They're pissing against the wind. They're like, oh my God, we got everything we wanted. And it turns out we didn't want this shit at all. Turns out we were not ready for it at all. Like, Joe Biden had a likelihood of dying, like a higher likelihood statistically than any other president of dying while he was in office, okay? And you did not have a contingency plan. You did not have a contingency plan. The Democrats themselves did not have a contingency plan. That's why they went with Joe Biden and an uncharismatic person like Kamala Harris as the VP because they wanted to make sure that Joe Biden, while saying he was going to be a bridge candidate, was never actually going to be a bridge candidate, right? We obviously saw that when Brandon was like holding on for dear life with that old man strength, gripping the candidacy for weeks on end after everyone realized that he was dying. But it is shocking to me that the Republicans, who in my lifetime are actually like, who used to be the winners, okay, ruthless killers and winners across the board, in spite of their horrifying, unpopular, cruel policies, they used to love winning. They used to do everything they can to win. And now all of this Trump populism has like completely broken the brains and rewired the entire Republican Party. Now they're just losers who whine all the time, constantly whining about Donald Trump losing, constantly whining about how he actually didn't lose, constantly leaning into conspiratorial thinking. And it is crazy to me. It is crazy. It is shocking to see this shit. I really think it's that they gave it a name that sounds like a bomb villain scheme. It's just called a new mandate for leadership. No way it breaks through the same way. If it was just called a new mandate for leadership, no way it breaks through the same way. Huge spike in awareness and rejection of Project 2025, okay? I'm sorry, but the Bush-era GOP coming up with shit like Project for the New American Century and saying things like we're an empire now, and when we act, we create our own reality was absurdly supervillain coded, but it went hard as these guys just lack aura. No, I think that the think tanks have always lacked aura. The think tanks always lack aura. The Republicans are having a hard time with their right-wing populism, and TikTok also plays a pretty significant role in beefing up certain narratives, so much so that like it has a capacity to change the actual discourse. TikTok, YouTube, and independent outlets constantly covered Project 2025. We've been talking about Project 2025 for like the past 6 months to a goddamn year, okay? There's videos of me out there from 7 months ago, 8 months ago, talking about Project 2025. Ironically enough, my own personal opinion is that Project 2025 is not indifferent to the regular Republican Party, but the difference is everyone's talking about that shit. So of course people pay attention to it and go, oh, I don't want that. Okay. I don't want that at all. I don't like that at all. Did you see Dark Hassan's political commentary?
Okay.
Oh, all right. We'll do that in a second. Are you saying Trump ruined the Republican Party? No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. The Republican Party, if anything, Newt Gingrich played a bigger role in ruining the Republican Party than Donald Trump, because Newt is one of the guys most responsible for culture war issues. Okay. Like changing the dynamic from like, trying to at least present your best foot forward and say we're the cut taxes party to like to being the party that personally was invested in just culture war shit. Okay. Trump simply accelerated that to its logical conclusion. He took it to the next step. He was like, oh, instead of talking about potential national security compromises that immigrants might face if they come into this nation, let's just say they're rapists. Like, there's just, you know, why would I hide the real thing that I'm trying to say? Okay. And basically that's what happened. And that's what they've been going off with. Now, a lot of old heads will remember this, and some new heads might know this if they're like at my level of, you know, at my level of political autism. But Mitt Romney, when he was the leader of the Republican Party running up against Obama, wanted to be pro-immigration. The Republicans were like, maybe we should restructure our narrative around immigration. Donald Trump took that and flipped it. He was like, what are you, stupid? Absolutely not. They're rapists, they're drug dealers, and some are very fine people. Famously said that. And then everyone was like, oh my God, I love this narrative. Oh my God. Oh, it's my favorite narrative. Okay. He completely flipped the script on immigrants. Mitt Romney was trying to hit that like immigrants are the backbone of this country. We should, like, he was trying to do like potentially even Reagan style amnesty. You know what I mean? Like they were angling, they were seeing the demographic patterns change in places like California, in places like Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, and how important the youth Hispanic vote was in capturing these states and turning them potentially solidly blue, which had already happened in California, obviously. So he was like, him and the Republican Party was looking to change the narrative around overt white nationalist sentiment, especially when it comes to immigrants. Okay. Donald Trump turned around and was like, that YOLO, we're doing the wall, build the wall, baby. And people loved that shit. Okay. People loved that shit. They loved it. Then they didn't love it when it actually turned into real policy, when they started seeing crying children, when they started seeing crying Guatemalan children wrapped up in that aluminum foil inside of these facilities. They were like, okay, never mind. I hate it now. I didn't know it was like that. And then it was very unpopular because people are stupid in general. The American population is very stupid. I'm stupid. Everyone else is very stupid. And let me tell you something, okay? Stupid people oftentimes wish that their policies that they're voting for are actually, going to lead to a better future than they are going to, right? And it's the same principle behind abortion. You had a lot of people in the Republican Party either overlook the realities of restricting abortion or outright demand it. And then when that came down, all of a sudden people were like, okay, never mind. I actually don't like the fact that, blonde, blue-eyed girls in the state of Texas are dying because they can't get their medical procedures done when they have an ectopic pregnancy, right? All of a sudden everyone was like, whoa, 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 whoa. I didn't realize it was like that. I didn't know it was going to be like that. And that's on the Republican Party. And that's why this race is on top of the fact that Trump is polarizing, on top of the fact that he's like genuinely a toxic person for a lot of people, a lot of demographics, a lot of constituencies. Abortion is a Republican project, and everyone knows it, and everyone remembers it anytime they hear in the news about another person having a hard time, having medical complications because they can't get this medical procedure that should be kept between a doctor and the patient, right? The reason why I'm explaining this is because, and I repeat this all the time, Republicans don't know the impact of their own policies. Republican voters, I mean, not the politicians. Politicians are demons. They don't give a right? But the Republican voters don't understand how violent and virulently racist the policies that they're demanding are. This is why Project 2025 normally would never be discussed in mainstream discourse. Think tanks come up with idiotic shit like this on a daily basis. Why are people talking about it? Because TikTok was talking about it, because YouTube was talking about it, because independent outlets were nonstop covering it. The Democratic Party dropped the ball. Independent media actually picked it up for them and delivered them a gift. They were like, listen, they suck, but we are seeing this. This is a pretty good thing to maybe focus on, okay? Now, that's why Donald Trump is currently saying, oh, dude, I don't know what this Project 2025 shit is. Yo, believe me, I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. Yo, chill. Everybody chill. Argued that life at conception meant going after IVF back in 2013. Dude from my hometown said they are two completely different things. No, they're not. And those people are stupid. And half of the Republican Party is going after IVF. So that's the other thing, right? So why did I explain all this? The reason why the Republican Party is in a state of panic actually is worse than simply Donald Trump. Their problems don't start and end at Donald Trump. Donald Trump is an objectively weak candidate, possibly one of the best to run against, right? Especially because it's not 2016 anymore. Everybody knows what it looks like when he's president. Everybody knows what he did when he was president. Everybody's aware of all of his controversies, and they don't like him or they love him. But people have made their minds up, and he no longer has that like outsider, I'm anti-establishment, take a shot in the dark for me if you hate all the liberal bi-coastal elites. He doesn't have that massive advantage, right? He doesn't have that no more. So now it's just the cult, and the cult could grow, but it doesn't seem likely because, like I said, people have made their minds up over already. Like, he's already been president. People know what it felt like, right? So beyond that, though, the Republican Party still has the very same issues with populism and right-wing reactionary attitudes because there is a base of voters, the evangelicals and the MAGA cult in general, which is reductive to say in this circumstance, but like post-Trump, there will still be like almost a Chavista style momentum in the Republican Party of like people who are following in the spirit of Trumpian politics. Post-MAGA, post-Trump, the Republican Party is still going to have these issues where there are going to be people who are like, no, we got to be right populist. And then there are going to be people who are going to say, no, we have to, we have to, Twitter's cooking your ass right now. What is this? If JD Vance simply said Mountain Dew, it would have been fine, relatable even. That's regular Joe blue collar soda. What kind of sick freaks drink Diet Mountain Dew? Alienated everyday voter base with one line. Okay, chill. I know Trump is claiming not to know about Project 2025, but is it still a concern? Yes, it is. yes, it is. Are you crazy? Of course it is. Bro, Project 2025 is just the Republican Party. People think you have ties with Kamala. That's crazy. The only ties I have with Kamala is that I am just as policing as the top of the hour. At the top of the hour, I'm basically a top cop myself when I serve a 3-minute ad break to people who don't have a subscription. If you don't have a $6 subscription, if you don't have a free one in the form of a Twitch Prime, basically you're like a black mother whose daughter or son is being truant. You're going to go to ad jail. Okay? Yeah. You are going to be locked away in a marketing hell where you are forced to watch 3 minutes of ads. Okay? Now, you can avoid that destiny. You can avoid that fate by subscribing or by getting gifted a sub if you're lucky. Okay? If you're lucky, you can avoid that. Maybe someone will gift you a sub. Here's a 3-minute ad break now, though. It's coming for you. I still think making this an Israel election would be beneficial for the Democrats if they turn around, if Kamala is able to turn around and at least on the messaging front, spell out an entirely new direction. Okay? I will stand on that. If you want to win Michigan, I don't think that the Democrats have any singular shot of winning Michigan without changing course, even on the messaging front, without any indication that they're going to change course on Israel. They will never win Michigan. They will never, ever win Michigan. Maybe after 4 years of like the Muslim ban and like Trump being genocidal or whatever, Michigan might turn blue again. But this election cycle, they will absolutely lose Michigan if the Democratic Party does not change its attitude on Israel. They don't care about Israel, man. Michigan does. You're wrong. There is a ton of voters in the state of Michigan, especially in Dearborn. A lot of young voters, a lot of friends and family members of Arab constituents, Muslim constituents, Arab Christians, Arab Muslims. But in general, there is a shit ton of people in Dearborn that will not vote. Minnesota is another one that's actually very scary. Michigan is the one that cares the most. Minnesota is the one that cares the second most. I don't know why people don't understand it. Okay? Anyway, I've seen Republicans on TikTok playing the moment from the debates where Tulsi Gabbard gets her on the policing record. It's so weird that they're suddenly acting like they care about over policing and putting black people in prison. Yeah, I saw Republicans post my older Kamala Harris video when she was running in the primaries against Bernie Sanders. And they're like, wow, Hasan is so based on Kamala. And it's like, dude, I'm literally calling her a cop. Like, I'm shitting on her because she was like kind of draconian, as cops are, even if they are reformist technically, right? And I don't think Kamala was. So, like, I'm literally, they're all of a sudden anti-cop. Like, what happened? But you have to remember, you know, especially online, most Republicans don't give a shit. Like, they don't care. They just like want a shit sling. What matters is it going to work or not? Okay? That shit slinging, that is. Leftists are so brain dead, and this is why we struggle to get things done. Wait, what do you mean? All I want to say is that the very MAGA office in Florida I work in is suddenly tongue-tied and sheepish now that Biden is out. Yeah. They got too geared up. They got too geared up for a Biden matchup. They were so excited about the prospect because they were like, oh, he's so old. These guys are such dumbasses. Oh, there it goes again. The Democrats being absolute idiots. The Democrats doing it again. Doing the dang thing again. They're just being dummies. They're going to have this carcass. Everyone's going to know he's a carcass by the end of this. He might even die before the election. Okay? And that's awesome. They got nothing. They have nothing, dude. They have plastic straws. Supports massive corporate tax hike is awesome. Wanted to cap rent and utility payments, awesome. Back tax funded Medicare for all, awesome. Investigated fossil fuel companies, awesome. Go ahead, bro. Are you campaigning for her? Like, the funniest part about it is that, like, even fossil fuel companies being investigated, you can angle as like, yeah, of course I'm going to investigate scary big corporations. Like, obviously for this audience, this shit's a banger, right? 10/10. Would recommend, would do it again. However, even for a Republican audience, when you say wanted to cap rent and utility payments, like, the only people who hate that are landlords. A much larger percentage of Americans than ever before are renters. They hear that and they go, oh, that's awesome. Anyway, Elon rate limited Kamala's Twitter account. Trump lover Elon Musk is already causing Kamala Harris problems. People are having trouble following Kamala Harris's campaign. Yeah, this actually is kind of scary. I will say this much. All of the tech CEOs are dick riding Donald Trump. And with the exception of TikTok, because that's, Chinese warriors, the strongest warriors out there, the CCP baby. With the exception of TikTok, all of these guys, and I guess maybe not like Twitch either. I don't think Amazon is like invested in Donald Trump as much. Like they're more of a 50-50 split as they usually are. But yeah, you're seeing a lot of these social media platforms like openly ride for Trump. Amazon did unban his account a couple of weeks ago. No, that's fine. That's different. Amazon unbanning Donald Trump, like Twitch unbanning Donald Trump's account is it was ridiculous that they banned him to begin with. It was like a silly PR move to do so when he was literally the president. And they never even punished me for watching Trump. And I've been watching Trump when he was banned nonstop. That would have been ridiculous. That was just a PR move by Twitch. But yeah, I am a little worried about the tech shit. Dude, the amount of right-wing ads I get on Twitter are insane. Yeah. No, I mean, Twitter is like definitely... Does the average person even use Twitter, though? Seems like if you're on Twitter, you're already decided. 20%, I think, of the American public used to use Twitter back when it was actually a usable platform. It's no longer a usable platform, and it's mostly right-wing now, and bots. So I don't really know what, like... I mean, it's definitely... It wasn't real life even back then. It did have the capacity to impact real life because a lot of journalists used to be on it, and they would get their discourse off of Twitter. So in that regard, Twitter used to have the capacity to like at least motivate journalists and mainstream media outlets to cover certain things in a certain way. Like the Bernie Bros narrative was entirely built on Twitter. Entirely. It was because journalists and politicians were upset that like Bernie supporters were very active on Twitter and they were like annoying them, right? So they would just constantly chirp about that shit. But ultimately, it obviously was not reflective of real life because like if that was the case, Bernie would have destroyed the primaries, right? Like it didn't work that way. Yeah. Also, red alert, Donald Trump has seen the polls and is now telling reporters he will debate Harris. I think it's going to be awesome. I think Donald Trump is going to try to pull some Hillary Clinton ass bullshit on Kamala Harris. And I think he's going to look like an asshole. 2 reasons why the Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump matchup does not align in the same fashion with Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris. 1, Hillary Clinton had 30 years of conspiracies, some warranted, some unwarranted, but conspiracy theories built around her name. Okay? Everybody hated her. And the 2016 dynamic was establishment candidate versus anti-establishment. Donald Trump was able to present himself as an anti-establishment candidate, and Hillary Clinton was uncharismatic and very much an establishment candidate at a time when people were just like tired of that and wanted something different, wanted something new. Donald Trump no longer has that anti-establishment bona fide because he was the establishment. He was the president, right? And he's the leader of the Republican Party for 8 years now. People know what it's like when Donald Trump is president. So he doesn't have that like outsider aura any longer. But like I said, Kamala Harris doesn't have the same weaknesses that Hillary Clinton has. Kamala Harris does not have the same weaknesses that Hillary Clinton has because Kamala Harris is not married to Bill Clinton. Kamala Harris did not have 30 years of conspiracies, some warranted, some unwarranted about, maybe even an Epstein connection, shit like that. Like Kamala Harris didn't have any of that baggage. In many respects, her lack of name recognition and her being like a lesser known entity kind of creates a blank slate for Americans to point to. That's the reason why Republicans are having a hard time grabbing onto what they can hit. And the only thing they can hit is what they can see, which is that Kamala is a woman, she's black, and she's Indian. Okay? She's a black Indian woman. That, in and of itself, is the only avenue of attack they have. And that's precisely why they're going to keep being like, she's a DEI candidate. Okay? She is a DEI candidate. She doesn't have children. Why isn't she having babies right now? Like, that in and of itself, like constantly chirping about like how she doesn't have children and how you're fake if you have foster kids, or you're fake if you have stepchildren in a country where the divorce rate is like, what, 55% or some shit. You are the most delusional person on the planet when you're looking at half the country and going, you're fake, you're phony, you don't have real kids, you have no investment in the future of this country. And if you're a woman that hasn't given birth already, you also have no future in this country. Great idea, man. Great idea. Like, looking at what's next. Are you going to start talking about how, you know, people are fat and they deserve to die because they're fat? Alienate like the most American thing. Americans are divorced, they have stepchildren, and they're fat. What else? That's the one thing that they haven't addressed yet. Like, they're hitting the Monty. They're hitting every high note on like what Americans are like, and just being objectively ghoulish towards, you know, largest percentages of the American voter base. So that's actually a massive problem for the Republican Party. But like I said, big crowds, big momentum, big movement for Kamala. Kamala momentum is happening. Libs say it's commencing. Sure. But here it is. VP vetting process begun. Shapiro, Josh Shapiro, Pennsylvania. Roy Cooper of North Carolina. Mark Kelly of Arizona, the only senator on this list. And Andy Bashar of Kentucky were asked to submit materials for vetting. I do not see. Kaya. Quiet. Anyway, Ogles introduced articles against Kamala. Oh, dude, whatever. Who would be the best on that list? We're going to do it. I will go through them again. Okay? Don't worry. But let's get to, the fuck are they doing? Let's continue on the stories
Today,
from
the
mainstream
vice
media.
president heads to Milwaukee for a previously scheduled campaign appearance that now takes on a whole lot more importance because it's our first sense of how she'll be as the candidate on the trail. Here in Delaware, there is a sense of bitterness about how this all ended for the president. One senior campaign advisor saying, remember, the president was always in this to defeat Donald Trump and to protect democracy, but that, quote, Democrats on the Hill and donors.